Howdy, y'all. Welcome back to Distant Discussions, episode 3. I'm Catherine, and I'm here with.
Sebastian. What's up, guys? And today we actually have some topics we want to go over. I mean, a quick recap. The last time, our last episode, we pretty much just covered a little bit more on how we actually ended up dating.
Hmm.
Um, how the relationship culture is in general. And
Yeah.
you guys can go watch that our last episode on all that stuff. But in today's episode, we have three topics we kind of want to cover. One is how to be happy while being single. You got
Hmm.
you got to learn how to really love yourself before you really jump into a relationship with someone else. And we really want to cover mental health, and that's our second topic. Like, I think mental health is a pretty important aspect in everyone's life regardless of the relationships. And the last thing is pretty much our journey on mental health, like you know how we went from our lows to our highs and how we got here. So yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
I'm gonna let Catherine take over for the first topic.
Yeah, so the first topic is, being happy in your season of singleness. And like I had mentioned to Sebastian before, you gotta date yourself before you date someone else.
That's true.
And I stand by that. Obviously, we all start our lives being single, of course, but there comes a point where you either have a relationship or something, like maybe even friends. It doesn't necessarily have to be a
Mm-hmm.
relationship. Just let's say you have a friendship, long-term friendship, and that ends. You have to learn how to be by yourself.
Yeah.
So that is kind of like when it becomes hard to be single or more importantly, just by yourself. Um, so I kind of wanted to share a little bit about my experience with that. So, sometimes, especially in this generation, a lot of people struggle being single.
Yeah.
And maybe in other generations too, I think it's just something that sometimes people get used to being in a long term relationship. And then once it ends, they feel lonely. But that was something that I really didn't want for myself, just
Mm-hmm.
because for me and my mental health, I knew it wouldn't be the healthiest. And it's just not something I was really interested in doing. I didn't want to date anyone else. Um, I was in a long term, I guess. Not it wasn't super like it wasn't too much. It wasn't like a long, super long relationship, but I was in a slightly long relationship. And then when that ended, I didn't want to date anyone at
I
all.
mean,
Like
well, how long was it?
it was 2 years.
I mean, that's still a pretty long time.
Yeah, but it was. I guess it is. But now that I
Yeah.
look back at it, 2 years passes by so fast.
Well, true, but 2 years is still quite a bit.
Yeah, but anyway, like after that ended, I remember just thinking like it was so hard going from having someone to hang out with all the time, just someone to talk to all the time, to then having nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I also didn't really have any friends in Arkansas. So it was very hard for me. And I really, really had to learn how to be by myself. And I remember that I basically started dating myself. And it took a lot of tears and conversations with my mom, which, mom, I know you're listening to this. I love you very much because she always was there to like make me feel better. And
Mm-hmm.
she was my friend. Like my mom and I have a really close relationship. And she was, my family and her, like, they were like the main reason I didn't feel alone.
Yeah.
So I feel like being single is the best time to be close to your family. And I know it's not the same for everyone. Some people aren't that close to their family. But to me, my mom really helped me, and, I will never forget, like, right after my breakup, she looks at me and she's like, "Let's go get a Starbucks." And immediately, and that right there, like, I don't think she realized how much it touched me because that was, like, the start to my journey of being alone, and I will never forget that because I love Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
And, to me, that was just, like, something like, okay, like, there's people out there that care about me. Cause I feel like sometimes when you go from being in a long relationship or in a long friendship and that ends, you just automatically assume that nobody cares about you. But that's not the truth. Like sometimes I do feel like that's probably the devil putting that in your head so you do feel alone.
Mm-hmm.
And that obviously affects your mental health. But anyway, um with that being said, I got closer to my family and at the time I wasn't talking to Sebastian and I just really wasn't talking to many people at all. I just had this one friend and he was also going through the same thing as me. So him and I got like pretty close, but we were never like super close, you know what I mean? We
Mm-hmm.
both had jobs, we were both busy, we didn't really hang out, but he was always there to listen to me and that's always good. But more importantly, I learned how to date myself in terms of I would literally take myself on dates.
How would
I
that
would
work? Sorry,
Yeah,
go
I would, so if you know me, you know I have IBS, so I
ahead.
can't really have, like, hot Cheetos and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I love them. They're so good. So what I would do was I would wait Fridays because I didn't used to work Saturday and Sundays, so I would wait until Friday night because I used to get out of work, like, pretty late. So right after work, I would go to the gas station and I would buy snacks like hot Cheetos, candy, just things I liked that I couldn't have during the week.
Mm-hmm.
And I would buy them. I would come home and I would make sure my room was clean. And I would put a movie on or a show that I really liked, turn some candles on, and literally just have a movie date like by myself. And it's odd because at first it was kind of sad, but with like more time that passed, I would genuinely look forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, on Fridays in the day, I would get so excited. I'm like, "Oh, today I'm gonna eat hot Cheetos. I'm gonna have a movie day." Like, it would genuinely excite me. And, like, that made me so happy personally because it's like, I'm making myself happy by doing this.
I feel like that's like one of the healthiest routes you can definitely take. Really just focusing on
Mhm.
yourself, really just being able to, kind of take a step back from relationships and only focus on yourself. Because I feel like
Yeah.
what tends to happen is like now that you feel lonely, you feel like you need to cover that with someone else.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I think that was a
It's
really
not
good thing to do.
mhm. Yeah, like, I do feel like a lot of people fall into that cycle of like, "Oh, I'm feeling lonely, so the only thing that's gonna make me feel better is someone else
Mm-hmm.
who's gonna give me that attention." And I know it's easy to do that, but for me personally, I couldn't really I wasn't in the mindset to do that. And I'm just not really the kind of person that wants to put myself through that because my mindset on that was like, okay, I could either learn to be by myself because it's going to be hard, but it has the best outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I go and get a rebound, as people like to say, I basically would have been shooting myself in the leg. Because the way I thought about it was like, if I go and date a person that I barely know just for the attention, that's gonna end in heartbreak.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't in the place and or mindset to deal with another heartbreak. Like to me, that was definitely not something that seemed like a smart idea personally.
Yeah.
Like that's not something I wanted to like deal with. And I was also in the place where like I kind of thought it was so hard to deal with another person in your life. I was like, "Bro, like, I can barely deal with myself. How am I gonna deal with someone else?" Because we'll get into this later, but, like, I wasn't my mental health wasn't the best at the time, and I felt like I could barely cope with my own emotions, so how am I gonna deal with a whole other person's emotions?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how I learned to be by myself, and that's how I learned how to love it, but I also like I mentioned in the last podcast, I, definitely improved my relationship with God during this time. And I had like Bible studies, or I tried to have Bible studies by myself. I would pray every night. I would just take time to talk to God and stuff. And, that's something that I still do. Like, I still talk to God and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing that helped me be alone, and I've told some people this, but it was I have like, um, not like a notepad, but kind of. I would basically journal
Mm-hmm.
just every day talking about how I feel.
Yeah.
And I also, the more interesting one was I started writing to my future husband. Um,
Hmm.
I'm going to give that to whoever I marry, but I talked to my future husband about what I was dealing with in that moment. And I have many letters to him. And, whenever I get married, my husband's gonna read those letters. That is the intention behind them. And that right there helped me realize that one day I'm gonna get married and I'm in no rush. You know what I mean? The
Mm-hmm.
right person will come at the right time, and that's kind of how I pictured that, and that really helped me be single. And sorry, like I know I did a lot of talking, but that's kind of like my story on how I learned to love being single.
I mean,
So
yeah.
now I'm gonna pass the baton over to you, Sebastian.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that was completely fine. You're just
Mhm.
talking about your story. That's all that matters.
Mhm.
But I guess going on to me, um, honestly, like I didn't have a hard time being single. Like I know I mentioned that I dated someone back in high school, but again, I kind of mentioned in a previous episode that that relationship was a high school relationship, so
Mhm.
I moved on from it pretty fast. But I was never the type of guy to be like, man, I really need to be in a relationship. And for a while, it was pretty much like that. Like I wasn't happy or sad. I was just doing my thing. Um, but then when I found out that Catherine got into a relationship, I still had liked her at the time, so I was like, man, it kind of hurt. I guess that's the only time it really affected me. And I was like, dang, like I don't know. Like I kind of just started thinking about everything. I started overthinking a lot, and that's kind of the first time that's ever happened to me. I was like,
Mhm.
what should I do? And there was a good few months where I kept like thinking that over and over again, and I started contemplating whether I should be in a relationship or not. But luckily, a few months later, I kind of caught myself. I caught myself and like, if I'm dating someone, it's because I'm dating them because of, Catherine being in a relationship, and I'm not necessarily dating them for them. And plus, I still had the things I wanted in a relationship. So I wasn't
Mhm.
gonna be the one to kind of just jump in for no reason.
Yeah.
I've never really thought like that. So, you know, after about a while, like, when Catherine was like deep into a relationship, that's when I started, I guess, coping with it. I mean, like I pretty much started helping myself. I started really focusing more on myself because I started overthinking at that time. And eventually I pretty much got back into my normal self. And yeah, like the things I would do is pretty much I would constantly learn. Like as boring as that sounds, like I just constantly educated myself. That's all I did throughout the time I was single. I was
Yeah.
like, I just want to be like get as smart as possible. I just want to learn new things. That's all.
Mhm.
Like I might not know everything about that certain thing, but as long as I learn something new, that's all. I'll be happy about that. And that's pretty much what what kept me going through being single.
Yeah.
I mean, I
That's a
wasn't. But so
Yeah, so I was gonna say that's a great way to be single, learning a whole bunch of stuff.
I mean, yeah, like I had a lot of time in my hands because I didn't have to devote myself to someone else. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so why not take advantage of all that free time to kind of just
Mhm.
learn new things? Like, I don't know, it's just exploring. But yeah.
Yeah. And I do understand that, like, the older you get, probably the harder being single gets.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that, like, a lot of people, not everyone, but I know, like, there are a lot of people out there that wanna get married, have a family, have kids,
Mm-hmm.
and, it probably does get harder as you get older to
Yeah.
be single. But for us, when we were single, like, we're still pretty young. We're both 22.
Mm-hmm.
Sebastian just turned 23
Mm.
by the time this comes out. Um, so, like, it's just to us, being single was kind of the time for us to really find ourselves and our interests and what we liked and not have to worry about someone else in our lives.
Yeah. Where we are now, I mean, we pretty much still kind of do those things for ourselves, even though we're together. Like, since we're long distance, obviously the only way we can actually talk is through a screen. So
Yeah.
it's not like we're sitting on like a FaceTime or anything, just talking all day. I still do what I've been doing, is kind of just educating myself and
Yeah.
kind of like doing new things. And Catherine, I mean, she's busy, you know. She has her own thing going on, and then she focuses, like, she has her own YouTube channel. So she's doing her own thing. So it's like we both have our own things going on.
Yeah, and that's the one like, not the one thing, but that's one thing that I really like about our relationship is that when we started dating, it's not like we stopped doing the things we liked
Mhm.
because I know that sometimes when you get in a relationship, you kind of stop doing things that you like for the other person, stop dedicating time to yourself, like stuff like that. But Sebastian and I have maintained what we like and we actually kind of share it with each other now.
Yeah.
Like, I like reading now. So I will literally like sometimes we'll be on FaceTime and he'll be doing his thing, his like techie stuff that he likes to do on his computer, and I'll be on FaceTime just reading. And when I come across a part in the book that's just like, makes me gasp, like I'm in shock, I always read it to him. And he, as much as he says he doesn't like the girl romance books, he's always so hooked by those parts.
Yeah, it's just drama. I mean, like, I don't particularly participate in drama myself, but when Catherine brings it, I'm all ears.
When I bring the tea, because I personally don't participate in drama myself either, but I like to
Well,
read
yeah.
about it.
I mean, you tell me about the things that happen. Not that what
Yeah.
you get into, but like the things around you.
Yeah, yeah. Like to
Uh,
me, I don't know, like him with his interest in like Legos.
hmm.
Like when he comes to visit, we always get a Lego set and we build it together. And it's usually things that I like flower Legos or something because he can't really fly with them.
Yeah.
So I usually keep him here. And yeah, so that's like an interest he has and like we both have kind of similar interests too. So it's kind of easier being in a relationship like this because we share so much in terms of like what we enjoy doing and just like now we're both also playing what's the game?
Oh, Stardew Valley. Yeah.
Stardew Valley. Yeah.
Yeah.
He got me on Steam and everything. So
Yeah.
now I'm starting to play games with him too.
I mean, yeah, because you're never a gamer at all.
No, and I'm still not. I don't know. I like games that are like Stardew Valley and like Minecraft. So I'm not big on video games, but we do like there are certain games that we both enjoy.
Hmm.
So we play like Monopoly, for example. Like
Clash. Clash is
oh
a big
Clash,
one. That's a big one that we
that
play.
that one we're both pretty good at though.
Yeah.
Like that one I think we're both like pretty high up on. So that one is like we love that game. And the thing is when we play, we literally play against each other, so it gets so competitive.
Hmm.
But anyway, yeah, so that's just some of the things we did while being single.
Hmm.
And it's always great to try to maintain those things when you do get in a relationship because imagine spending so much time trying to learn to love yourself again and to really learn how to be by yourself. And then the moment someone comes along, you just immediately throw it all in the trash and just change yourself for this person.
Yeah. No,
Not worth it.
it's not. Like, I think it's important to find someone that kind of just complements those things. Like, and
Mhm.
what I mean by that is just not judging, I guess. It's just kind of like
Yeah.
you like the things you like and you keep doing them from when you're single to when you're in a relationship. But yeah, that's all I was
Yeah,
gonna
I mean,
say.
unless like you enjoy doing drugs,
Well,
don't find someone that's okay
that,
with you doing drugs.
that's a different story. But
But anyway, yeah, like, unless you have like hobbies that are like addictions, then maybe you should find someone that doesn't like that.
hmm,
If it's something healthy and actually enjoyable, then yeah, find someone that, kind of motivates you to do that more.
for sure.
But yeah, so now we wanted to also talk about mental health.
Hmm.
And growing up, I didn't really know that much about mental health, to be honest. like it wasn't that talked about. I feel like now it's more common, I guess, but I do think that like people in the like past, like like especially because growing up Hispanic, like I think about like our like ancestors and like I'm Salvadorian, so I think about like people in El Salvador and stuff,
Yeah.
or like you're Mexican, so like people in like Mexico, I just imagine like I'm sure they had mental health issues, but no one really knew what it was or addressed
Everyone
it.
kind of just, especially like the Hispanic culture, they just keep it to themselves. It's just
Yeah.
known as like you keep it to yourself. You just focus on doing whatever you need to do, and that's it. Like it
Mhm.
stays in your head. Um,
Yeah.
but I kind of dealt with mental health early on, like
Mhm.
definitely, like all the way from when I was a kid. Mental health was
Yeah.
always a big thing to me, and like me growing up, like my family wasn't necessarily like that. Like everyone kind of, they did the Hispanic thing, they kind of just kept it to themselves. But for me,
Yeah.
you know, with everything I dealt with growing up, I pretty much already, I wouldn't necessarily say depression, but more so anxiety. I think that was the biggest thing
Mhm.
I had to deal with in in high school, especially. Like that's when it hit the hardest. So what I will say is I stopped playing high school soccer in high school. It was my freshman year when I stopped, and I continued the diet I had for soccer, so I gained a lot of weight really
Mhm.
quickly. And that was probably my worst state. So going into sophomore year and continuing to junior year, like I was at my heaviest.
Mhm.
But there was something that triggered since I was eating so much. I couldn't find out what it was, but whenever I ate, I started throwing up everything.
Mhm.
Everything. I didn't know what was going on. I was super scared, but I didn't say anything because again, the Hispanic thing. Like
Mhm.
I was scared to say anything. So what I would do is like I would try to eat something, I would throw it up, and then um I would just lay there and just kind of just do nothing about it. And when I would go to school, I wouldn't eat lunch. I wouldn't do anything. I'd kind of just go to school, come back home. I try to eat again, throw it up, and then use my computer and go to bed. And within 3 months, 2 to 3 months, I lost 60 pounds around there.
That's
I lost
crazy.
60 pounds and I lost a lot of weight. And that was one of the scariest times because I don't know if you guys have ever, like, if any of you would ever have ever dealt with this, but it's called like derealization or something like that.
Mhm.
But pretty much you feel like you have an out of body experience, but it happened to me constantly. Like I remember being in high school and we went to a Catholic high school. We would have something called adoration.
Mhm.
And when I was there, I was obviously starving, but I couldn't eat at the same time because I was throwing it up. So I would just like put my head down on my knees because we sat on the floor. There was no chairs for those. And yeah, I would just sit with my like head between my knees and kind of just sit there. And I just felt like out of it, completely out of it, like if I wasn't alive anymore. And that was at the peak where I after that I'd go home. When I went to sleep, like to be completely honest, I was hoping that I didn't wake up the next morning because of how horrible it felt. Like I was starving. I was legitimately starving the entire
Mhm.
time. And one day I finally decided to tell my dad like, hey, like I haven't been eating, and obviously he noticed the weight loss, but I didn't say anything. Um, I finally told him, went to the doctor. It turns out like a lot of that was caused from acid reflux, but like extreme acid reflux. And so they gave me
Mhm.
medication. Within like 2 weeks, everything got a lot better. But my bones were severely like I wouldn't say damaged, but they kind of were, because I was getting to the point where I forgot what it's called, but your bones become pretty brittle
Mhm.
because I didn't have enough, like I wasn't consuming any calcium or anything like that. So like my body was physically weak, my mentality was completely gone. And
Mhm.
yeah, after I ended up taking the medication, it's kind of like a flip because once I started eating again, I took it pretty seriously because my anxiety started coming in. Like after everything that happened, my like I got some type of trauma that caused my anxiety to worsen.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, like when my anxiety got so bad to the point where I'd kind of like almost faint, and like my heart rate would increase severely, and like I felt like I couldn't breathe. And I'm speaking on this because a lot of this stems from the fact that mental health is extremely important, and being able to talk to someone about it is very, very important, because all of this could have been prevented if I didn't keep my mouth shut.
Mhm.
um and yeah, no, like I feel like if you're going through something, regardless of what culture you come from, speaking up about it is the most important thing you can do, because once you say it out loud, it's like something starts to become better anyways. Like even though you're feeling at your worst, like something about that just makes you feel better because you finally can speak out about it.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I feel like when you're going through that, it's almost like you're embarrassed to tell someone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I also struggled with, like, anxiety and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so with me, I do think I had anxiety, like, in high school, and we just didn't really know what it was. There's a situation, like, my freshman year, I felt like I was dying. I didn't say anything about it because I thought I was just, like, weak. Like, I don't know. And, I kinda just thought it was that, like, I hadn't eaten enough or something, or, like, I just didn't have breakfast. I was, like, not thinking about it. Then my senior year, I remember, um, if you're from high school and you were in this class with me, then you remember the situation probably.
Mm-hmm.
But I was in anatomy, and we were doing a lab, and I was with my best friend, and then all of a sudden, my hearing just started going away, and it sounded like I was legitimately underwater, like when you're swimming and people are
Oh
talking
dang.
on the outside.
Yeah.
And then my vision started going away, and I didn't know what to do. Like it was so sudden, I didn't know what it was. And I remember telling Denise why this is like a joke between us now, because we didn't know it was anxiety or like a panic attack, but
Mm-hmm.
I told her, "Hey, I can't see you right now." And I was standing right in front of her, and she was like, "Stop messing with me, dude." Like, and I guess because I was messing with her, but I legitimately could not see her.
Mm-hmm.
It was like my vision was going away, and I thought it was something medical, like maybe I didn't have enough breakfast, but I had a hot dog for breakfast that day. But, I remember my teacher at the time got so worried. I could barely walk, like, I was just something was wrong, so I remember after school that day, I went to the hospital, and the doctor said I had a panic attack, and I was like, "No, that can't be it."
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I remember I just didn't wanna believe it, like, because I was like, "How can a panic attack cause physical reactions in your body like that?" And, like, what caused me to panic?
Yeah.
And, so that kind of I feel like was one of the first, like, major signs that I probably had anxiety. I just didn't wanna believe it. And with me, I don't feel like I have anxiety, if I'm being honest, but I do have a lot of physical symptoms of anxiety. So that's,
Mm.
like, the difference with me. Um, but that was, like, I guess the start of, like, me realizing I did have anxiety.
Yeah.
And then, when I moved to Arkansas, obviously I was sad and stuff, but when I got sad, I felt like it was, like, some, like, deep sadness that I couldn't really describe.
Mm.
Like, it wasn't just me being sad, like, it was me being heartbroken, and I thought that I just was emotional, like, to me, I just thought that was normal,
Yeah.
and maybe it is, like, when you're young, a teenager, especially, like, hormones, like, growing up, like, I feel like you're hormonal, but I didn't realize that I was depressed. And don't think I was depressed up until 2019,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think I got out of that, like, funk up until 2022. Um, but I remember that I didn't really realize it was depression. I just thought I was really sad, but, looking back to it, I should have seen some of the signs. So I remember, I used to work, like, a weird schedule. So I would start, like, 2 o'clock, and get out 7 or 8,
Mhm.
and, it was, like, midday, and I remember that I legitimately just wanted to sleep all the time. Like, I just didn't wanna get up. I didn't wanna get ready. I had no motivation. My room was an absolute mess. And Sebastian, you know how I
Yeah.
am with my room now.
Yeah.
My
Always
room
clean.
is always clean.
Yeah.
Like, I love my room to look clean. Like, the way it looks right now is the way it literally always is. That's not, like, something that I used to do. Like, this is, like, something kinda new for me,
Mhm.
but my room was horrible. Like, I kid you not, like, there was clothes everywhere, and now I look back to it and I'm like, "How could I live like that?" But I legitimately had no motivation to clean, like, my surroundings. Obviously, it wasn't trashed, I wouldn't leave food in here, but, like, my I just it was just super unorganized.
Yeah, it's all
And,
cluttered.
yeah, and I remember just being fine with that, and that that and the fact that I was sleeping all the time, I just didn't wanna go out,
Yeah.
that was just some of, I guess, like, the symptoms of me having depression at the time,
Mhm.
but also I remember that I just didn't look happy. Like, I know like, the people around me, like, could tell I didn't look happy, and, um, I didn't tell anyone how I was feeling, and one day, I decided to tell the wrong person how I felt because I thought I could trust them. And when I told them that I was feeling like I basically, like Sebastian said, just didn't want to wake up, like that's kind of how I felt. Um, I remember telling this person that, and they basically told me they didn't care and it wasn't
Damn.
their problem. And that right there really like affected me even more. And it made me feel like I couldn't go to anyone, but that also like taught me that like, you know, I should have gone to my family or, like, someone who really, like, cared about me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, at the time, I thought like, this person cared about me, but obviously that was not the case, and, that obviously at the time when you're already depressed, that affected me so much, and I remember just kind of after that, I really, really just didn't want to be alive, and I didn't know what to do, and I just remember that at this time, I was also having, like, a decent amount of, like, health issues in terms of, like, my stomach, so I just felt like everything was going downhill, and throughout all of that, crazy thing is, my faith in God was amazing, and I remember I would cry myself to sleep, and I would tell God, "Thank you for giving me another day of life even though I don't want to be alive,"
Mhm.
which I know sounds crazy, but, like, um I remember, like, always still, like, thanking God for everything, even though I didn't necessarily want to be here, and I felt guilty for that. But, um, at this time, I was, going through, like, I was gonna have a procedure done, and, the person I, had trusted with telling about how I was feeling, the day before this procedure, I was very anxious, and they, basically started putting me down and, like, making me feel worse about the situation. So I remember just praying about everything, and this is why it's so important to have, like, good people around you when you're feeling this way, because if you
Yeah.
have people that are just negative and putting you down, that's gonna make you feel even worse.
For sure.
And, yeah, so I remember, like, before this procedure, I, prayed and stuff, and I had, like, the wildest dream, and this kind of, I would say, was the start to me getting better. So I remember like a week before my procedure, I had a dream and I what I do need to work on is reading the Bible a little bit more, but
Mhm.
I will share what that has to do with this. But I remember having a dream and it was just really odd. Like it was kind of like a story that didn't make sense. And I was like it was like a pastor showing me deer's feet and like speaking to me and telling me that Jesus went through what I did. And it was so weird, and then I remember waking up and looking it up on Google, and my entire dream was a Bible verse I had never read in my life. And it like shocked me. Okay, so I actually found the Bible verse that I'm referring to. It's Habakkuk 3:19, and the verse that went with my dream was the Lord God is my strength. He will make my feet like deer's feet, and he will make me walk on my high hills to the chief musician. So at that
Hmm.
point, obviously it's insane because I had never even heard of that book in the Bible. And my dream was exactly what that said because at the beginning I was in a super high building with my mom, and then it all led to like deer's feet like at the end of it. And if I didn't believe it and I had any doubt, what happened next made me believe that it was a Bible verse in fact, because I remember telling my dad, I went to my dad's job and we went to like go give him something, and I talked to him and I told him I had like the weirdest dream, and I like explained it to him, and he like looked at me in shock and he was like, so I live in Arkansas, so like during the fall or like winter, there's a lot of deer out, but they usually just run past your car. And he told me, he was like, this morning a deer stood in front of my car and would not move. It was just staring at me, and like it just would not move. It was just staring at me, and then after a while it just walked away like calmly.
Hmm.
And like his headlights weren't on or anything. It was like in the morning, I guess, and I just stared at him. And then
Yeah.
my brother was with him, and when I told them the dream, they were like, "What? Like that's crazy because we were there when this happened this morning."
Yeah.
Which is strange because my deer. My dream had to do with deer and everything, and that right there was the start of me getting better in terms of my mental health. And after that, I yeah, I'm pretty sure it was after this. I waited some time and I opened up to my parents, and I finally told them how I was feeling and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like your family, they're like, "Why didn't you tell me? Like I could have been there for you."
Mm-hmm.
And like I should have told them. But there was just something that made me feel like I couldn't go to anyone.
Yeah.
And I was like embarrassed to even speak about it. And after that experience, I knew that I could go to people, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was my experience with depression. But ever since then, I do think I've been doing a lot better with depression. Like, I don't think I've been depressed since then. That was definitely the, like, I think rock bottom in terms of the way I was feeling.
Yeah.
And even during my breakup, like that was nothing compared to what I was feeling for like those 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I know people say like your first heartbreak is like whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's so hard. That was nothing compared to what I had experienced before.
Yeah.
And but after that, um I did start having like symptoms of anxiety. But like I said, I don't really feel anxious. I just have like physical symptoms of it, which I guess it's good to look out for sometimes. It was very similar to Sebastian's symptoms, but mine I've had since I was little actually, since I was like a toddler. I've had these symptoms, but my mom didn't know it was anxiety. It just happens in phases where I literally will struggle to swallow my food.
Yeah.
Um, and now when I see this in people, I'm just like, "Hey, you might have anxiety." Because it took me so long to figure it out that now when I see someone struggling with the same thing, I want to tell them, like, you probably have anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Because with me, I remember I lost like 10 pounds in 2 weeks because I was not eating. And I remember sitting here trying to eat my Taco Bell. I got Taco Bell after church. I was so hungry. It smelled so good. It was in my mouth. I was chewing it. When it came time to swallow it, I couldn't swallow it. And they can't even explain it. Like, I
Yeah.
legitimately just could not swallow my food. So I was like, okay, like this is an issue. But I didn't really think too much of it. I was going to just live with it. And then I was in the car with my mom. And I suddenly got a panic attack for no reason. And then that led me to go to the doctor because I thought I was dying.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a panic attack, kind of like what I had in high school, like that one time, but at
Yeah.
this time I couldn't breathe also. So, that ended up in her telling me I basically have anxiety. And yeah, like that's how I figured out how, you know what I mean? Like that I have anxiety. And there's different ways to fix it and stuff. but I'm doing way better now. And, I think it's always good to talk to people about it though, because if I would have never told my mom or anyone that I couldn't eat, like I probably never would have gone to the doctor and I would have just lived with it. But, there came a time where I
Yeah.
was sniffing the food. It was getting too hard for me, like I couldn't swallow my food. So I was like, it's time for me to say something.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it pretty much for both of us at least it got to extreme cases before we spoke up. And
Yeah.
like I said before, like a lot of things could have been prevented if we just spoke up. But again, it also just came from the Hispanic culture.
Yeah, or not only that, but I think it also came from us being immature
That too, for sure.
because we were young. Like we were, and I'm not saying it's always immaturity as to why you don't speak up, but I do think it's also fear. And like personally, I think the one thing that did help me was my relationship with God too, because that was the one thing that I do think helped me.
Hmm.
Because from the time I was depressed to the time I stopped being depressed, the one thing that changed was like my relationship with God. Like that dream I had, how I said that's what kind of led me to feeling better.
Yeah.
That's because I had, started to like give thanks to God even though I was feeling bad. I had started going out of my way to, even if I didn't want to sit there and pray, I would take the time to do that.
See.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry. Like, that's just one of the ways I got through it,
Hmm.
but also like talking to someone. But I do think that like a lot of reasons why people don't tell people is because they're either embarrassed, especially I think guys, because I feel like guys are kind of seen or society tells them like you have to be strong, you can't
Well,
cry.
I think from that, it's mostly just like, especially when you're younger,
Yeah.
you care a lot about how you're perceived.
Mhm.
Like, obviously as a kid, you haven't gone through much, and your entire life revolves around the school you go to and stuff like that, and like the
Yeah.
friends you have. So you don't want to be seen as like, I guess, the weird kid, or what the heck is why is something like you have something wrong with you, but you do, but it's okay. Because
Yeah.
the moment you grow up and like you get older, you're like, why did I care? But
Mhm.
that's everyone's gonna experience that differently, but that's basically what happened to me. And I think it's just very important to kind of recognize, and it's better when you're young to recognize, like, hey, if I'm not feeling the greatest, I should really go talk to someone. But yeah, no, mental health is very important, and we kind of flip flopped our topics because we kind of talked about our journey with mental health,
Mhm.
and we spoke around mental health. So, we kind of did both topics at once.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I think mental health is one of the most important things you need to keep up with. And I think for me, because I wasn't religious at the time when I was going through it, um, I kind of just saw it as like, when I started physically taking care of myself, I started to care about myself a lot more. And that kind of translated into me being able to pick myself back up and really do things. And
Yeah.
I think, exercise and stuff like that really, really, really helps you,
Yeah.
even with your mental health. Like just taking care of
Mm.
yourself is gonna take
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
The the problem with that though, I feel like with me was I had no motivation to do any of that
Mm-hmm.
at the time, which is why I think like I say God got me out of that because yeah, like if anxiety and stuff, I think working out, taking care of yourself definitely helps, taking care of your environment and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're depressed, I feel like you have no motivation to do anything. Like you
Yeah.
don't want to get up and do your hair. You don't even want to get up and shower. You just want to sleep. You know what I mean? Like, obviously everyone experiences depression differently, but I think that it's kind of hard to do all that when you have no motivation to do it.
True.
You know what I mean?
And I'll admit, like, the thing is, in my head, I never thought I was depressed. And what Catherine talked about, like her symptoms, how she wanted to sleep a lot, she never cleaned her room. like I've always been kind of a messy person as it is, so I never really thought about that. But I'm not the type of person that likes naps anyways. I don't like to sleep a lot.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's one of those things like I'll never know if I was depressed because I just never thought I was in the first place.
Yeah,
So
like
I'll never know how those, like how people with depression go through things.
yeah, like personally, I love naps. Sebastian
Mhm.
knows this. I
Yeah.
love sleeping,
Yeah.
but now I enjoy it. It just, sometimes I'm just tired and I just want to take a quick nap. Before, I just would wake up and I remember being like, "Ugh, like another day."
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, "Ugh, what a beautiful day it is outside. The birds are chirping, it's sunny. Like I genuinely, and it's crazy because sometimes I get emotional and I just see, like, I can legitimately see the difference in how I see the world around me.
Mhm.
Like, everything just seems so beautiful and, like, pretty now. And before, like, none of it made me feel anything.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, I definitely think, like talking to your family or having someone you trust. Even if you don't have someone you trust, just know that God's always there to listen to you about it because, some people don't have anyone to go to,
Mhm.
but you can always pray, you know what I mean?
I agree.
And to me it's like there's always someone there to listen basically. So, I feel like that obviously helped me a lot and yeah, like that's pretty much what we wanted to share in terms of our experiences and
Mhm.
during this time actually Sebastian and I were in each other's lives. So he kind of got to experience me being like depressed, and I got to
Mhm.
experience him during this time,
Yep.
which is pretty interesting because we've pretty much seen each other like
In every
at
stage.
rock, yeah, at rock bottom.
Pretty much. It's crazy to think about. Cause like
Mhm.
it's funny to think about the time from when we were 13 and we're just kids. Like we don't really know what's
Yeah.
gonna happen, and then all the way to the point where our mental health has taken a toll pretty heavily, and then all the way to this point now. It really is
Yeah.
crazy to look back at.
And it's crazy because I remember during this time, Sebastian and I would FaceTime sometimes because we were like still friends.
Mhm.
And I remember he would always tell me like, "You know what? You're not being yourself right now. Like you don't seem like you." And it would get me so mad. It
Yeah.
would just trigger me. But like honestly, like Sebastian, I think you could say this, but like you can probably agree with this, but I think the person I am right now is like night and day compared to what I was like during
Yeah.
that time.
I remember that time. I mean, I remember we'd get on FaceTime calls and like you always seemed pretty serious, and you kind of didn't care about anything. And obviously, for knowing you for so long, I'm like, this isn't Catherine. Like, this isn't Catherine at all. And
Hmm.
all that went through my head was kind of like, I feel like I just had to put that out there to you. And of course,
Yeah.
it didn't reciprocate well because she was in the best mental state. And,
Hmm.
that's completely fine. But yeah, no, I really, I recognize that. And I think, obviously, as we are now, we're good. We're back.
Yeah.
But,
And
yeah.
it's funny because at the time I was like, no, this is who I am. But if you know me, I'm the biggest troll you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
Like, I just love messing around. I'm always laughing. I'm kind of weird. Like, I like joking around all the time. I'm just always messing with people. Like, I don't know. Like, I like joking. I'm a big jokester.
Hmm.
And at the time, like, nothing was funny. Like, nothing made me happy. Like, I was just like, I don't care. Like, whatever. And I was just mad all the time.
Yeah.
And I thought that was normal. But that's just, maybe people sometimes go through that because they need to be grateful for life. That's probably why I went through it because I needed to learn how to be content where I was.
Yeah.
And I realized that I don't always have to be like yippee-ki-yay, like, "Oh my goodness. Yeah," like super happy. I
I
can
feel.
just be
I'm
okay.
sorry. Yeah. No. Go ahead. I'll let you. You can
Oh no,
finish.
I was gonna say like I can just be okay being alive and you know what? That is a blessing.
Yeah.
Just being alive,
Yeah. Cause
having
I.
food.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of toxic positivity being spread at this point. Like
Mhm.
honestly, cause for like an agenda being pushed of, you need to look for the place where you're going to be the happiest. But then when you try to continue trying to fight for that happiness, you kind of realize like you're never going to be happiness or sorry, you're never going to be happy because
Mhm.
you constantly chase that one thing. Like if I do this thing, then I'll be happy. Then when you're at that thing, you're kind of like you're happy for like 15 seconds and you're like, "Oh, well, what I need to find the next thing that'll make me happy and I need to find the next thing." And I feel like that
Yeah.
trickles into your entire life of like the relationships to your career to everything you do. And it's like
Mhm.
just learning how to be content with what you where you're at, and not only that but like grow in a healthy way. Like it just be curious about things. Don't go for things because they're going to make you happy. Just like you go for things because you're curious about it, you want to learn about it, and it will just take you to an entirely different place, and you'll end up being a lot happier than if you kind of you keep pushing and chasing for that happiness. And I mean that's all I have to say about that. I think it's important to kind of just realize being content is okay.
Yeah, like, I definitely agree with that, and, you know, um, like we mentioned at the beginning, those were the 3 topics we kinda wanted to touch on.
Hmm.
I hope you guys found it interesting or enjoyed, or hopefully someone out there feels a little bit, like, better now if
Yeah,
they're going through any of this.
for sure.
But, yeah, so moving on, I'm trying, like, not to move on too quickly because that was so deep and now now I wasn't talking about celebrity. Um, basically, we wanna do, like, a little segment, well, I wanna do it. Um, so I know a lot about celebrity drama because I'm on the right side of TikTok.
Hmm.
So, obviously, Sebastian is not on that side of TikTok.
I have no idea. Look, like guys, if you guys know me, I don't pay attention to any celebrities or anything like that. So if people tell me, "Oh, like, dude, this actor is amazing," I'm like, "Who is that?" And they probably play like a big role in one of like the movies I actually enjoy, but I just didn't know their name because I'm not like into that, or like celebrity drama. Don't even know about it. So yeah.
Yeah, but as we've, discussed multiple times, Sebastian loves tea. So I'm like, you know what? It would be so interesting to have a little segment where we talk about, like celebrity drama
Hmm.
and just kind of like, get into it
Yeah.
and just I want to see his genuine reactions and opinions to it. So you guys are going to get to hear all that because it's honestly so interesting, like just to see the way he reacts to everything. So I know for sure one celebrity, I'm calling it celebrity because that's a great name for this little segment.
Hmm.
But I definitely wanted to get into the whole Hailey Bieber, Selena Gomez, and Justin Bieber drama situation, which I know it took place like a little bit ago,
Yeah.
but Sebastian still has no clue about it.
Mm-mm.
So I don't think we'll get into that one today, but that's definitely,
Dang, you're teasing right now. That's messed
yep.
up.
You guys have to wait for the next episode for
I
that
thought you
one.
were gonna bring it up right now. I was
No, no,
ready. I
no.
was ready. I was like, okay, I'm
Oh
down.
my gosh. No, I want to make sure I'm gonna have an actual list of information and facts I gotta touch on. So, um, yeah, so that's definitely a topic we'll be talking about next week. So stay tuned for that one and stay
Hmm.
tuned to hear Sebastian's reactions on that.
Oh boy.
Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed this podcast to be honest. I always enjoy your podcast,
Yeah.
but I did think this one was pretty interesting. It was deep. We got real close to you guys.
Yeah.
And I hope you guys feel like you guys can go to someone or have someone to go to. Hey, and if you don't, I'm here. God's there. Sebastian's here.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So, um, I'm not saying spill all your tea to us if you're not comfortable with that, but like if you really need someone who understands, we definitely understand. But praying always helps. I'm not trying to push that, but I do think that's something that helped me.
And I completely agree with that. And I'll end off by saying this: like, everyone has their own path. Everyone's gonna deal with their own things, but just remember, like, what you're going through, you're not alone. And there's always a positive outcome in something. So
Hmm.
as long as you remember that, everything will be okay. It might feel like the worst thing in the world right now, but there's always something at the end of the tunnel. As cheesy as it is, it's true. It's true. So yeah.
Hmm. So I hope you guys enjoyed. please make sure to like this, subscribe, comment if you're watching on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
If you're watching on any other platform, if you can like it.
Yeah.
And if you can leave comments or reviews, I would really like that. Like that's interesting for us to
Yeah,
read.
we would actually, like any feedback that you guys may have, or if you guys really enjoy it, we appreciate everything.
Yeah, and
So,
we actually have gotten some feedback so far.
mm-hmm.
It has made us so happy because we kind of like didn't really expect it, to be honest. At
Yeah.
least I didn't. Like, so I think it's really cool because this is something we enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, if you guys ever want us to talk about a certain topic, if you guys have us on like social media or anything, you can always message us, but you can also leave it in the comments or like, leave it on anything and we would love to touch on any topic, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that would be so fun. And also like later on, if we actually realize that people are consistently watching us, we want to have kind of like a Q&A type thing. We've talked
Mm-hmm.
about this just so we can answer some questions for you guys because obviously we just talk about what we think would be interesting to talk about or like good topics that we think people should hear about like
Mm-hmm.
today. Um but we don't really know what you guys want to hear, like what questions you guys have.
Yeah.
So, just let us know.
Just send them our way, and we'll be ready for them. But
Mhm.
yeah.
And
So,
this is Oh,
oh,
sorry, go ahead.
no. You can do your outro. Go for it. Go for it.
I was about to say this is my second episode of me trying to push this outro. Distant discussions.
All right, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.